National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, presents a Bravo video event, the Business Insurance Zone, dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice.
And on today's show, Section 79 plans with special guest Ken Davis, CPA.
And now the host of the Business Insurance Zone, the whiz of the biz, insurance columnist Steve Savant.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. We're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial professionals right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And with me today, again, if you missed yesterday's show, you missed him, Ken Davis, CLU, ChFC, CFP, and CPA, and the liaison between the life insurance industry and the fiduciary market. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Hello, Stephen. Good to see you again.
You are the ambassador, or should I call you the emissary of all that is economical between our little world of insurance professionals and the fiduciary market, better known as trust officers, tax attorneys, and, of course, CPAs. Really, you're one of the few guys that actually can talk both sides of the language. That's why when we talk about Section 79,
you're saying I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth?
Oh no, I'm saying that you're multilinguistic.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to clear that up.
I mean that you have dialects. You have several dialects. You speak many languages, right? I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
And here we just dabble in taxation. You live there, right? Yeah. But what I like about Ken is he really has a handle as a CPA and a CFP on our issues. And as a CLU ChFC, he actually had to go through this to kind of check it out, understand it, and then he started to think about it, write about it, and you teach. I think about this. He has to teach that at the CPA Society, all about life insurance, and it's an 8-hour blockbuster course. For me, I'd love that. I'd love to see the face on the CPA Society when you're teaching this, shock and awe in your audience.
Well, you know, the fact matters. You know this about me, that for years I had bad experiences with my own insurance agents and really was very unhappy with them as a whole. And then, of course, CPAs are really careful about people who work on a commission basis. So I came into I took my last course in the CFP on insurance and really didn't want to take it, but then had an epiphany halfway through, realized life insurance. See, I'm using your words. Epiphany.
He had an economic epiphany.
This is Steve's word.
I love that.
Woke up to the fact insurance is a great concept and very important in the financial planning process. It just has to be used appropriately. And
hopefully we've passed your test on appropriateness.
Well, that's why I like to be involved in this stuff, is to help people understand and help CPAs understand how it can be used appropriately.
And when you marry the technology and the actual construction of a life insurance product, in our case today and all this week, indexed universal life,
right,
and marry that to Section 79 plans, which we're talking about all this week. If you missed our show yesterday as an introduction, hop out to our site, www.brokersalliance.com, head into our archives area, go ahead and click on it, watch Monday's show, where Ken kind of introduces or gives us an entrance level kind of an explanation. And now today, though, we're going to up our game a little bit, Ken, as we're talking about 79 plans from a CPA point of view and a person who totally gets IUL, Index Universal Life. I would like you to give me the comparison, and let's just get it out of the way, between Section 79 and other qualified plans.
Well, let's talk about that. You know, let's talk first about administration and complexity. Anybody that's spent any time with qualified plans understands that there's very detailed rules. The rules change annually. And then there's court cases and revenue rulings, all the stuff that changes the law pretty much on a daily basis. So they're complicated. And then the administrative costs. You need a plan administration company, and they charge fees, and appropriately so, to keep it all in line. And then I don't know about how many times you've run into it, but you know, small employers have had plans in place for years, and they forget about them. They don't give them the attention they need. They get out of compliance, and now they're going to their advisors trying to figure out how to get out of them. You know, they're difficult. But let's say everything runs smoothly, everything's fine. There's really two different kinds. There's the deduction up front or the tax benefit on the end. And the deduction up front is your traditional IRA or qualified plan, where you get your deduction up front. In between, you get tax deferral. And then at the end, on a traditional IRA or qualified plan, you have full taxation and 10% penalty before 59.5. and forced distribution at age 70 and a half. And I don't know where they get these half-age things from, but it's in the code, okay?
I know, some guy was probably turning, that one of the legislators who wrote this probably was turning that age at that time.
Who knows? But anyway, so you have that, and then you have the Roth type, where you get no deduction up front, tax deferral in between, and tax-free at the end. Again, limitations on contributions. If you take money out before 59 and a half, the gains are taxable, subject to a 10% penalty. There is no forced distribution on a Roth type of plan. If you're just going to compare those two things, assuming a constant tax rate front and back, the net effect of income to live on in retirement is almost identical, depending upon some of the assumptions of variables you use, but pretty much grant me that's the case. But the Roth has the advantage that in rising tax rate situations, they're better off because they didn't get a deduction when rates were lower and get tax-free when they're higher. Traditional tax deductible when they're lower, but then fully taxable at higher rates when it comes out. So if you're like most of the advisors I've talked to, we're all expecting tax rates to go up at some point to pay this outrageous debt that we have as a country.
And I think, what was it? Like, I think it's almost 15.3 trillion at the date of we recorded this. So
well, and I heard numbers that a third of our budget is being borrowed every year to pay the bills. So anyway, most everybody thinks that tax rates will rise. So the Roth concept has benefit. From an estate planning standpoint, Roth is superior because there's no forced out distribution at 70 and a half. You get to continue to defer till the day you pass away, and then pass to the kids, and they can get that transferred over tax-free and then be required distributions based on their life expectancy. So those are your two primary benefits. Tax deduction up front, tax deferral, taxable. No deduction, tax deferred, tax-free. So they just kind of flip. So now they go to 79. So what does 79 look like? Well, obviously, 79, in our first show we talked about the fact, is funded by Index Life. It is a life insurance tax code section. It only applies to life insurance, not other investments. So it is very unique and specific to life insurance.
Well, let's just talk about that for a second. Just want to make sure we understand that. So Section 79 is an employer plan, but all it addresses as an investment or savings vehicle is life insurance as the contract or as the vehicle.
That's your choice. And most people think it's just term insurance, but no. Permanent insurance is included in Section 79. We're going to explain the taxation of that, but generally you get the deduction, full deduction up front at the employer level, C Corp, as we explained in our prior show, and then the employee has to take part of that back into income, which is typically 60 to 70% of what the contribution is. So the net effect is about a 30 to 40% deduction if you're the owner of the company and then the participant.
You know, you think you put on these index returns, and let's even be conservative, Ken. Let's not talk about 9, 8, some of the crazy illustrations I see. Let's just talk about normal 6, maybe we get 6, right? Nothing really wild. And then you throw on this deduction. Those numbers get big.
Yeah, as I was starting to say in our first session, is, you know, the formula is gross return minus management expenses, return before taxes, return after taxes. Well, in the traditional scheme of things with investments, you're going for those high rates of return. We used to look for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12% return, and now nobody believes that's going to happen based on what we've seen in the last 10, 12 years.
I would be one of those.
Okay,
right.
So now we're at a point where we have lower expectations. But look at it this way. What if I have a lower gross rate of return, but I have lower taxation? Okay? So lower returns but lower costs nets out to a pretty decent return. It's a viable economic return after all fees, expenses, commissions, whatever. And now when you throw a tax deduction on front of it, you know, depending, if you use somewhere in the 7% plus category, frequently you'll run internal rates of return net pre-tax equivalent of somewhere in a 10, 11, 12% compound return. Those are awfully good equivalents compared to what you'd have to do outside, and I would argue with a whole lot less risk.
Well, when we think about comparing them to different qualified plans, we still do qualified plans.
Well, of course.
I mean, of course, you know, and we're not trying to say this is a better than a K plan or any of these other plans that are out there. We're not saying that. We're just saying this is another option that has some real economic power at the front end of the deduction, the power of life insurance and the ability to bring this money out free, depending upon the ownership and all those issues, I think it's really huge.
I look at it this way. We know that 401ks do a really nice job, what we're going to call K plans on this show, by the way. The K plans do a
So
great...
we're shortening it from 401k to K?
Yeah, K plans and Roth K plans.
I'm tweeting live. That's what I feel like. I feel like, our whole generation, right?
Yeah.
We can't even finish a sentence anymore, right? Everything's acronyms. Now we're going down to single letters. I mean, did you see the last email I got? It went like this, C-U, they won't even spell it, So now we're talking not 401k. It's, hey, by the way, think about this. You got baby boomers teaching you the hip language. This is like saying, I'm taking this on the DL, right?
Right.
I mean, which is, we used to say
Download.
on the QT,
Yeah,
right? We
QT,
say QT.
download, yeah, right.
QT is passe. DL is very hip. But
Okay.
now we're saying 401k plans are
K plans.
K plans.
So
Wow.
the K plans work great for the rank and file employee. And employers, to a large extent, need to put them there because it provides a benefit. Whether they choose to match or not, or what the match is their choice. But they get the cost for the match, the cost for the administration. They've got liability, legal liability in terms of problems that could happen in the investment portfolios and managing those types of things and doing educational processes. They're rather cumbersome, and then the laws change constantly. So, but they're there, they have to be there to a large extent to help the employees. But we're looking to help the owners. And we're looking to help the key employees. And Section 79 can do that for both, or just really for the owner. We can.
No, I thought it was non-discriminatory, though.
It is. Do you want to talk about that right now?
No. We'll
Okay,
save that for the
we'll
next
come back to that later then. But it is non-discriminatory. Typically, it works out logistically, about 95% ends up in the pocket of the owner. So you can now take care of the top, the owner, the rank and file's down here, and now we still have a gap, don't we? We have the key employees. Well, we could choose to have them get involved in the 79, or they could choose to be involved, I guess is a better way of saying that. Or we could go to something like a 162 double bonus with restrictive endorsement, stuff like that, which would be a nice show for another time.
We're going to do a whole show, maybe a week, on our version of how to explain 162. Stay tuned for that. It's hopefully sometime in March or April we'll have that.
So what I'm trying to do is help our friends, our agents, to look at business planning for, there's the 401k, and now we're going to take care of the owner and the key employees. Today we're talking about the owner primarily, which is Section 79 plans.
Well, Ken, when I'm looking at this and I'm trying to compare it to plans, I know that government's all over the ERISA issues on qualified. Does Section 79 still fall under ERISA?
No, entirely different
So it's
subsections.
completely different. So the regulatory body that governs this is a completely separate section of the code.
Right, and you can combine them. You can have both in place at exactly the same time with no interaction whatsoever.
Unbelievable. So I'm not going to have any problems with ERISA. This is a non-ERISA issue.
That is correct.
Unbelievable. Well, listen, you're listening to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that focuses on insurance in your practice. You can write us at the show at thebiz@brokersalliance.com or call toll-free 1-800-290-7226, extension 147. Ken and I will be right back after a word from our provider, Brokers Alliance, a nationwide distributor of insurance products and services.
Whether you're a professional planner pursuing a strategic partner or an insurance distributor seeking a national alliance, your business just went into overdrive. Now enter the largest resource of insurance products and services with unparalleled access to a worldwide audience of consumers through the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, who can take your company and launch it into the stratosphere of success. With countermeasures, the most comprehensive carrier intel in the industry, the MASH unit with field triage underwriting and the premium tolerance test, the life insurance financial evaluation, the most rigorous policy review, and Bravo high-definition broadcasting with online social media. Your search just ended.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm Steve Savant, your host, insurance columnist, financial color commentator, and interviewer extraordinaire. Before moving forward with any of the strategies on the show, especially this one, always check in with your CPA, your tax attorney, and your broker-dealer compliance department. You can call us for any of the quotes on Section 79 at 1-800-290-7226, extension 147, or you can call, or you just did, on any of your quotes for life insurance, annuities, LTC, whatever you want. Every product we sell, you can buy. And remember, it's not what I know. Apparently, I don't even know our own portfolio. It's not what I know, it's who I know, and that's why I have Ken Davis, CLU, ChFC, CFP, CPA, former president of the local chapter, and teaches at the Arizona CPA Society, and he's a CLU, ChFC. I've lived to see the day a fiduciary has leanings towards us. It's just great. I mean, we're talking Section 79, talk about a marriage of two families, two communities that have been we've been at each other, right? I mean, CPAs don't like us, we don't like them, right? I've noticed one thing though, Ken, I have to say about CPAs. How come you guys are in the high-end pecking order of vocational life? You know, and we're second down to used car salesmen. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, we really have been taking it in the shorts ever since I've been in this business.
Can't explain it, just is.
It just is. Well, guess what? We've now married the two communities, and we're talking about a product, actually, that is a absolutely great introduction into employer benefits with front-end tax deductions and all kinds of great tax issues because of life insurance. We talked in the first segment about basically how does this compare to different qualified plans, and we talked in the generic. Now let's really talk about it, putting them kind of side by side. Give me the yin and yang, 79 versus
the K plans and the Roth K plans.
Yeah, and if you're just joining us now, remember K is Ken's totally. You know, Ken, I feel like we're in the hood right now. You know, like, hey, we don't say 401k anymore. We're like the K plan. You know what I mean? How do you do a K? How do those guys do that on prison, whatever?
Be careful with the fingers there. You know,
I notice I tucked that one in. No, but I mean K plans. You know, I mean, we're shortening everything up. It's abbreviated. So, talk to me a little bit about K plans and Section 79 if I can get my composure back.
Well, we talked about K plans and Roth K plans last time, and it's the tax deduction up front, tax deferral in between, fully taxable, subject to 10% penalty is your regular types of plans. Your Roth type plans are no deduction up front, tax deferral, tax-free at the end. What's true about both of them is substantial upfront limits, lots of frustrations by owners and key employees on those limits, and then also having required to be there till 59.5, which reduces liquidity, and then forced distribution at 7.5. That's your nutshell comparison.
And because of ERISA, don't they have compliance issues that are just enormous?
Oh yeah, I mean, when I talk to the third-party administration companies that do this, I mean, the tax law changes all the time, and people think tax law changing means Congress doing something. Well, sure, they do that, but then there's court cases, revenue rulings, all this stuff is going on, and each time these things are published, it changes nuances and certain rules and types of things. And then there's areas that the administration companies make a choice to go ahead and do and assume that it's okay, but it's kind of gray area, so you know that can be difficult. So frustrating, complex, expensive, especially for the employer. So now we shift over to the 79, and just to give our audience some sort of anchor point, life insurance to a larger degree is like a Roth type of plan. No deduction up front, tax deferral in between, tax-free distributions if we keep the policy in force and do things correctly at the tail end and don't let it lapse. And then, of course, tax-free death benefit. Well, basically, a 79 is you take that chassis and you put a front end on it, which gives you typically a net effect of 30 to 40% deduction. So we just kind of supercharge this whole concept. Now, the other thing that's different besides the deduction is liquidity. Sure, there's early withdrawal penalties, but we can get our cash out of a policy pretty quickly, can't we? Okay, and these days, well, one of the carriers we use has a 5-year penalty period, so after 5 years there's no withdrawal penalty. So I mean, talk about liquidity, and the fact that you have a safe concept with indexing with very little or no real downside, whereas traditional investments and qualified plans do. So there's quite a few differences between them, but conceptually pretty easy to think about a Roth concept married with a 30 to 40% up front with more liberal withdrawal and contribution rules. Now,
when we started this, remember yesterday we talked about this is really kind of a group plan. So
is a group
there's
plan.
a divisionary area here, 9 employees or less, 10 employees or more,
right,
in regards to underwriting. We talked about that. Again, if you missed the show, just hop back out on our site, www.brokersalliance.com, and go right to our homepage, click on the red button, and go right into our on-demand section and catch Monday's show. We talked about underwriting.
Yeah, and I'm going to stress, some of those shows that we've done together, you can kind of break the different topics down into bite-sized pieces, like the year-end tax planning has different subject matter. But this is a cohesive concept in all 5 segments. So if they're really interested in the Section 79, don't just stop with 1 or 2 shows. Really would encourage you to go from the beginning all the way through.
And one of the reasons why we're encouraging it and doing it on the show is because we are seeing significant play among our producers nationwide who are getting into this. This could be a career maker. I mean, these contracts, even the small numbers, are what, 25, 30,000 at the low end.
Yeah, 25, 30 at the low end, typically 50 to 100, and then in some cases a whole lot more.
So
per year premium.
And one heads up before you get too excited, remember that if you allow Ken and I to do the contract and we really do the design work, we're going to be suppressing the deferral, we're going to be squeezing the quarter down and suppressing the death benefit, because this is a total income sale, and we're doing it not so much now. There could be people that want the death benefit, right? I mean, there could be.
Sure.
But once they elect for income, I'm going to go ahead and try to do my best job, and that means on every chance I have, I'm going to mitigate the COIs and every other charge that we can to try to really make it really work for the client.
Well, and I think what's also important there is you're going to run into gatekeepers. You're going to have attorneys and accountants, because when you're talking 25, 50, or 100,000 a year in premium, guess what? The other advisors are going to be in the mix. And if you try to go to the table with 100% target premium, the numbers are going to look terrible.
Absolutely.
And the advisor is going to say, go away, I don't want to see this, and don't ever show your face to me again. You go in with a 50% target, the numbers look good, an 11, 12% pre-tax equivalent compound. That's the economics, plus the life insurance and potentially other living benefits. It's something that if you do it right and you do it honestly for the clients, the advisors not only will say yes. I've actually had my very first time I presented for one of my agents, we got in front of the CPA. The agent was recommending $3,000 a month or $36,000 a year in premium. CPA not only liked it, came back and doubled it to 72, and then said, I want to participate too. And the attorney got wind of it, wants to participate as well. So not only can you get past the advisors when it's done right, they will embrace it. And then he said, before the meeting was even through, he says, there's probably 2 or 3 other clients I can think of that could benefit from this. So do it right, do it clean, you'll make more money, and everybody will be happier.
When earlier we talked about that it isn't under ERISA. So we have some flexibility as far as legislation goes, but we really have the things that you talked about on the life insurance side, the tax issues, and presenting this right, because I'm into presenting this in the best possible rate of return for the client, whether it's death benefit or whether it's income. Now, when I'm looking at this, I'm trying to, again, I want to just keep re-emphasizing this, because generally when we start talking about Section 79, everybody says that to the almost negating any other qualified plan, and we're not saying that.
No, I think each type of plan has its pluses and minuses and fits into planning in different ways.
I mean, if I looked at the cash balance plan, if I looked at the profit sharing plan, you know what I'm saying? If I did my 401k, or K as we're saying on the show today, if I compared every single Roth IRA, except 401, if I put everything on the table, we're not saying at the exclusion of these things, we're saying, and you said we could do both.
Well, yeah, and I think it's a lot like how we diversify different types of investments. Do the 401k for the rank and file and some base contributions for the owner and key employees, but then stack on a 162 bonus for the key employees and throw what we're talking about today, a Section 79, for the owners. Yes, there's non-discrimination, and there's going to be a whole lot of eligible employees, and we're going to talk about why that generally doesn't happen here in one of our sessions. But it's a stacking kind of thing and a diversification. And who knows what the tax laws will be 10, 20 years from now. So wouldn't it be nice to have 3 different choices, 4 different choices of where you're going to draw your income from? And yes, you can turn your phone off, Steve, if you want to.
Well, if this isn't my boss calling, he's got a problem, right? Well, here, let me just shut that off. And excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time our producers are saying, first time I just got caught on the air with my phone on. I don't know how that happened. and we're going to turn it off here. Although, if you're calling me now for a Section 79 quote, and if that turns out to be a 79 quote, I'm going to be delighted. Boy, I tell you what. Hey, and I got to change my ringer too.
Well, the other thing too is that, you know, a lot of our agents are probably going to say, well, this is too complicated. I don't know how to deal with it and stuff. All we need to do is get census data on the employees, and it's relatively simple, plus some additional minor information. We'll get an administration company to run illustrations, proposals, and then we'll deliver it back, and it's all there. And we'll give them materials to learn this thing, or if they want some help from me and stuff like that, then I can
and that's
get
another
involved.
thing too. You know, Ken's involved in a lot of our heavier cases, advanced cases. He shares comp with some of the guys. It's very, very good to have his CPA, CLU, ChFC, CFP, all that on there, because he can interrelate with the gatekeepers, the corporate guys who are writing the checks, their CPAs, their tax attorneys. He speaks their language. They see his credentials. He walks them through that area. It's an excellent, excellent way to place cases where you can really come to the table with a gun like Ken. And hey, even me, the life insurance guy. How about that? Boy. Well, remember, you can watch this show and all our shows this whole week on Section 79 in beautiful HD 1080p right on our homepage. Just click on the on-demand section at www.brokersalliance.com and on all our social networks, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Vimeo, and of course, Facebook. I'm Steve Savant. You've been listening to the Business Insurance Zone. That's the buzz on the biz for today. Get in the zone, the Business Insurance Zone.
This has been a Bravo video event of the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, one of the largest distributors of insurance products and services to a nationwide network of insurance professionals. Need insurance guidance? Brokers Alliance. Dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice.